a young person that was really wanting to involve himself in coaching and start to understand how to put an organization together. And I think going to Clemson, that was where I first started understanding that. You have to find some enjoyment in doing other things that involve baseball, but involve the growth of the kids that are playing it.
We couldn't leave Nashville and not take advantage of having one of the most heralded college baseball coaches in the country at our fingertips. A member of the ABCA Board of Directors, winning has seemed to follow Corbs wherever he has landed, and Vanderbilt has been no exception to that. Let's take our last trip on this tour around the bases with Commodores skipper Tim Corbin. This episode is presented by Baseball Coaches Insider, the exclusive provider of the ABCA Barnstormer Clinic video series. We can't thank them enough for their efforts in bringing this project to life, working the cameras to help us take a deeper dive into these programs and these coaches, and we hope that you go check out more of their exceptional resources at coachesinsider.com.
Back on the field with Coach Corbin. I want to take a tour around the bases. You want to go for one with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go for a walk. So getting out of the box here, something I'm really interested in is your growth as a leader. Can you take us back to who that young Tim Corbin was, and especially as you've grown throughout your career?
Well, I mean, I think the person prior to coming to Clemson was just a young person that was really wanting to involve himself in coaching and start to understand how to put an organization together. And I think going to Clemson, that was where I first started understanding that. And Jack Leggett had a lot to do with that. I can't thank him enough for the development that he instilled in me and the lessons that I learned from him. And then coming here, once you take on something that becomes your responsibility, then it's different. That chair is a little bit different. It's a little bit hotter. And I think even at a young age, that's 17 years ago, I think it's just something that you're learning with each experience that goes by.
Oh my gosh, okay. Taking me into some important lessons. That's always, when you think about maybe aha moments or big moments in your development, what would you point to? What jumps off?
I think 2007 regional, when we had a really good team. We were ranked number 1 in the country for about 14 straight weeks. We lost to Michigan on a walk-off home run, so that it eliminated our chances of going to Omaha. And that team was predicted to go to Omaha, but you know what predictions mean. But I just remember Maggie and I went to breakfast with Coach Winkin, the old coach at Maine, and he was the NCAA rep. And I asked him a question. I said, what'd you think? And he said, well, I could tell you, I knew you guys were going to lose.
Wow.
I thought you were too tight. And because you were too tight, your team was uptight.
Wow.
It made some sense to me, and I had some clarity to why that was the case. So I felt like if we could ever get there again, I'd handle that situation a little bit differently. But I think first and foremost was, you know, after the years that we would come close, the years where you'd lose in a regional or super regional, I think that's when my wife, thank goodness, brought to light that, hey, listen, if you're just going to be chasing this last game every year and you're going to, 2 or 3 weeks after, you're going to be in the doldrums, then you're just going to die a very disappointed man. You're going to have to find some fulfillment in doing some other things. So I think that's when it really set in that she's right. You have to find some enjoyment in doing other things that involve baseball, but involve the growth of the kids that are playing it and the ones that you're involved with. And you know, I know how much you and I talk about relationships, but that's really where it's kind of moved towards more than anything else, and just the development of the guys themselves.
Gosh, have you found that fulfillment in the relationship end?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think we always did, but you just don't realize it. I think when you're younger, especially when you're beginning a program, you're just trying to get it afloat.
That's right.
And what's important in your mind is that scoreboard, because that's going to dictate your longevity in the position that you have, particularly in our conference.
Sure.
So I think that was first and foremost, is just getting competitive. But I think then once you start to get competitive and you start to build an organization to your liking, then you can start to accent on the relationships that are involved inside the program.
Dial those up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So taking our lead through here, if I'm looking at someone that encompasses the spirit of lifelong learning, that's you. And I think we both understand that in order to gain growth, we got to get uncomfortable. So have you always had that spirit? Is that something that's been ingrained in you from the start?
I mean, I think so. I'm curious. I'm just curious on how things work, and curious on how people work, teachers and coaches that I've been around before, and trying to watch them function and see how they communicate with their teams and their adults. So that's been important. And I think going back to Clemson, I think that's why that situation, learning under Jack, was so inspirational in so many different ways, because I was just on to everything that he was doing. I was taking it in, and there, in the 9 years that I was there, it didn't matter if it was something that he had spoken about 3, 4, 5, 6 different times. I always heard something a little bit different. But he was one of those guys that were put in your life that inspired the thought of continuing to learn. And then along that way, you know, we've talked about Bruce Brown before. He's been a tremendous mentor for me personally, because he really helped me gravitate towards the character piece of teaching and working with young kids. And I now, when I heard him for the first time, Sheets, I mean, he just drew me in.
Game changer.
And it connected the dots for me in terms of how you can get guys to think and operate in a certain way. And Don Meyer, who was here in town, he was a Lipscomb basketball coach, then worked for Northern State. I had such a great relationship with him, but he brought to life the classroom. And even though we were using it, we started to use it in different ways once I got around him, and that was back in 2003. So Don's no longer around. Thank goodness Bruce is, and Jack, of course, is, and still talk to those two guys quite a bit.
Okay. We can dig a little bit deeper on some details. How do you seek out these opportunities to, in essence, challenge yourself? That's what we talk about a lot at the ABCA. How can we challenge ourselves to learn and grow and get better? How do you seek out those opportunities? Are there daily habits? Are there mentors, mentoring? Are there things like that that really push you in that direction?
Well, I just think that for the betterment of my own development, because for the betterment of my development is going to increase the development of the players that you're teaching. And if I don't move myself, I'm not going to be able to move them in the direction that I think is where the experience is going to grow them. And I've always felt like it's competitive to me. I mean, I think, you know, when you're a teacher and you're a coach, it's always staying ahead. It's trying to stay ahead with their learning, how they learn, what they listen to, what's important to them. And then you have a young battery of coaches that are very good, and they push the level too. There's some outstanding young coaches out there that communicate and talk in a different way, and I want to understand why they think that way and why they teach that way and how they're doing it. And it's all applicable to what I'm doing. So
yeah, when you catch yourself in those moments that somebody's presenting something to you that's different, you catch yourself in quote unquote being uncomfortable.
I don't mind being uncomfortable. I don't mind being wrong.
You embrace it?
Yeah, well, I think you have to. I mean, you have to. I mean, self-preservation of your ego, but I don't think it matters. Once you get to the point, if you really want to make your guys better, then I think you have to investigate things that are put in front of you that could change the thinking and the direction of how you're teaching. So it's all important.
So you mentioned, as we were heading to first, a turning point in your career where relationships became your primary focus, and Maggie having a lot to do with that. If a young coach is watching this, they're paying attention, how would you really direct them right now to really shift their focus and keep it solely on the players?
When you're coaching and teaching, I think a lot of times we assume that when we're communicating with the players, that they're listening to us. And I think in a lot of ways they are. They're listening to you respectively, but I don't always think, Sheets, that they're digesting the information. Because I think what they're doing, at least initially, is feeling you out. And the reason they're feeling you out is because there's a trust element to teaching and coaching that has to exist in order for that person to take on that information, use it, apply it, digest it, and then move forward. So the only way that can be drawn from is by building a relationship with a young man that might not be based on, it might not have anything to do with baseball. It may have more in line with him as a person and asking questions and generating thought that has nothing to do with baseball at all, in order to get to that point where you can start teaching and applying thoughts to his growth.
Okay. Any relationship that's worth anything is built on trust. How would a young coach really exhibit and go about building trust within his own players?
Well, it's just taking the time to communicate.
Okay.
And I think communication is not so much me talking to you, but a lot of it's listening.
Yes.
A lot of it's presenting questions in which someone can share with you and
Yes.
start to share their life. Because I think for a lot of guys, it's sharing intimately their life and who they are is not the easiest thing in the world, and maybe no one's ever asked them to do that before.
Sure.
So I just think opening yourself up to someone where they can open up to you and stimulate the thoughts of who they are, why they are who they are, what their family is all about, and where they come from, and what makes them tick. And
Right.
I think that what makes them tick goes a long way in trying to understand how to teach and how to work with them.
Being a great communicator, how have you grown in that space? Because that's certainly figuring out your language and the way you can reach people. That's a growth opportunity as well.
It is. I'm not going to say I'm great at it. Where I've felt comfortable is just from the social aspect of being able to communicate with other people, especially kids, because I think we're all kids at heart, but I really feel like I'm a kid at heart. When I go out or we go out, I gravitate more towards the kids. I don't know, that's probably not a compliment, but I do. I gravitate more towards younger people because I feel like what they're talking about, what they're laughing about is more on my level.
So you catch us here in the home stretch here, Corbs. I'm interested, and we ask our coaches this a lot, the word success. How do you define that?
Oh, I think at this point it's just about building an organization and a situation where everyone inside of it grows and there's development going on. And I think not development just limited to the players.
Right.
I think you're talking about development of the staff, and you're going to lose players through graduation, through the draft, and they're going to move forward. But I think your staff has goals too, and they want to reach those. So I think when you look at success of anything that you're doing, in particular our program, just look at the people inside of it and helping them attain the goals, personal goals that they want to get to. But I think more than anything is helping each person develop as much as possible.
Wow, I love the word goals. So let's go into this. I'm thinking about Vanderbilt. You mentioned the players, the staff. What are the goals for this program?
I just think to keep it moving in the direction that it is. I mean, we've experienced a wealth of great relationships, and there's been some success, but at the same time, every year that we've been here, it's been stimulated by the people, the players, the coaches, and we just want to continue moving it in that direction. You have to throw yourself into it, and you just have to enjoy the moments that you're involved in it. And I do. I don't take any of this for granted. We've talked about that before. I don't take any day or any relationship or any part of it for granted for 1 second. So I just want to keep moving forward with the kids and just try to continue building it.
Okay, Corbs, we'll make you uncomfortable. I'll ask you about your personal goals. When you think about coaching, you had so much success on the diamond, but when you think about where can you go from here, what do you get?
I just think to just increase my personal health. I think health is everything when you're trying to create energy for yourself so that you can create energy for your program. And I think that's ultimately the most important thing. If you don't have your health, you can't teach, and you can't help the kids. So I think more than anything, it's just taking care of yourself, taking care of your own relationship at home, so you can get to the point where you can inspire the kids. But I don't want to minimize that, because I think it's the most important thing. And after that, I think things take care of themselves.
I love it.
Yeah.
You've been more than gracious showing us this great facility, obviously what's inside your player development facility. Thanks for taking time with us. Anytime we can spend with one of our board of directors is always a great time. So
I appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Thanks, Corbs.
Yep.
With a very full heart, we packed up our bags and we started the journey back to Greensboro, bringing the road show to our coaches, entering their stomping grounds to see their facilities up close, find out even more about the special people that make our association great, and talk a little baseball along the way. Until our next trip, we ask that you keep learning, keep growing, keep challenging yourself inside this game. We wish you and your club the very best, and thank you for what you're doing for the game of baseball. We've enjoyed having each of you on the tour bus with us, and we hope to see you one day on the road show.